Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Brissett. I'm the president of the Environmental and Energy Study Institute, and welcome to our first COP29 pulse check. These are intended to be quick hit little mini briefings where we have a principal and a U.S. official joining us to talk a little bit about what's happening here at COP29. We're at COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan, and coming to you via our live cast. Quick word about EESI. We are celebrating our 40th year. We have been providing policymaker educational resources to members of Congress and their staff for 40 years now, focusing on climate topics, environmental topics, clean energy topics, you name it. The best way to keep up with our work is to subscribe to our newsletter, Climate Change Solutions, and you can do that by visiting us online at www.eesi.org. Every fall at about this time, we focus our attention on the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Conference of Parties, or COP. This is the COP29, the 29th of that. And we really, what our goal is to bring information from COP29 this year back to Capitol Hill to help congressional staff and their bosses understand what's happening, what the US positions are, what other countries are doing, and trying to find ways to make that resonant for a Capitol Hill audience, because it is very, very important for Congress to be engaged one way or the other, hopefully in a helpful way when it comes to the UNFCCC negotiations. So that brings us to today. We are extremely fortunate. Oh, before I get into our interview or our discussion, during COP, we have a very special resource called COP Dispatch. It's a daily newsletter. It comes out every afternoon, Washington time. Also, you can subscribe to that at www.eesi.org. You really don't want to miss it. It's a tremendous resource if you're looking to keep track of what's happening in Baku this year. Now, on to our very special guest today. I'm joined by Jane Nishida. Jane is the acting deputy administrator of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. And we are here today at COP29 to learn a little bit more about what the EPA's priorities are and what is keeping Jane busy during her days here at COP29. So welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So I'd like to start by just asking a basic question. What negotiation or part of the negotiations or agency priorities are you focused on while you're at COP29?
Today, I was pleased to announce EPA's waste emissions charge. It was a waste emission charge for methane for the oil and gas sector, and we were directed by Congress to collect a waste emission fee. And the industry was also, we worked with the industry to develop this regulation, and we were pleased to be able to make the announcement in COP29.
That's great. What is it about COP29 or COPs in general that are especially important? Why are you traveling here to raise the importance of these issues at an international venue like COP?
I think it's important to be at COP because it demonstrates U.S. leadership, not only leadership from the federal government, but leadership from state governments, from private industry. Earlier today, I was on a panel with state governments from the U.S. Climate Alliance, as well as the state of California, to talk about what states were doing to reduce methane emissions.
So you're describing what's happening domestically. Why is U.S. engagement on issues related to methane at an international level important?
Because methane represents one of the largest sources of pollution around the world. And with U.S. taking leadership, we hope that the world will follow our lead in also addressing methane emissions.
So my last question is, you're here, most of your time is spent in Washington, the United States, but you're here. What are some examples of the work being done here at COP29 by you and by other parts of the US delegation that has a positive effect or is especially beneficial to people back in the US, or even better, both beneficial and having a positive impact?
Again, one of the examples is in the methane sector. The rule that EPA just announced today is a rule that will lead to more innovative, cost-effective technologies that the private sector in the United States will be leading on. And by sharing that innovation and the incentives that we create in the US to spur reductions in emissions reductions, hopefully that will help the rest of the world do likewise in terms, because we know that climate change is a global problem and that everyone has a stake in its future.
Right. Well, thank you, Jane. That was a great, quick conversation, a pulse check, if you will. Really, really appreciate your time today. Any final words you'd like to leave with our audience today?
No, just a pleasure to be able to talk with you and to share what EPA is doing to address climate and pollution more in general, to also provide a cleaner environment in the United States and around the world.
Great. Thank you, Jane. And thanks to everyone in our livecast audience for joining us for the first of EESI's COP29 Pulse Checks. We talked a lot about methane. Methane was actually a topic of one of our pre-COP briefings. We took a look at the global methane pledge. We also took a look at the negotiations more generally, and we also did a deep dive on US-China relations. So if any of those topics, especially methane, are of interest to folks in our livecast audience today, check out www.eesi.org to review our briefings. We also have trackers of announcements and reports and US officials who are traveling to COP, and our daily newsletter, COP Dispatch, keeps track of everything, or as much as we can cover. There's only so much we can do, and COP is a big place, but we try to cover all we can for a congressional audience to keep up with what's happening here. We will be back with another EESI COP29 Pulse Check shortly, so keep an eye on your email for the next briefing notice, and we will wrap it up there. Jane, thank you so much. Good luck and safe travels back to the US.
Thank you.